Hey, Lord of the Rings fans, New Better Do Better here, back with another episode of Voices of Arda. And then cue the music. There's no music? There's no music?
There can be. I can edit some
We,
in
we
right
can we
now.
can
I
do
can
something.
I can
As
edit
always.
in your angelic singing that you like to do there. I'll put some in there. Yeah, there we go. Exactly.
As always, everyone, I am here with my wonderful co-host, KaliCosplay. What up, Kali?
Hi everyone. Welcome to 2025. This is our first episode of the new year. So
We got some very famous guests that we got here today. You know what I'm saying? Like they on the rise. Like they really bubbling right now.
today we have TJ and David the Nyoldo. They actually have been spending a lot of time on TikTok lives with New Betta. So I'm going to let him introduce them again for this episode because I feel like you guys have established a very regular chatting relationship at this point.
You know what? Couldn't been said better myself. Basically, I like to welcome in what I like to call the new blood in Lord of the Rings fandom, and I don't mean as new blood as in their new fans because they are deep lore historians and just lovers of Tolkien. We got David Donaldo, who I've had the pleasure of meeting a couple of times, and he is in absolute beast mode when it comes to Tolkien lore and especially speaking Quenya or talking in Quenya. We're gonna get into that. He know we're gonna get into that. And then we got my man TJ over here. Shout out to TJ. He is just blossoming, doing big things. Whether it's online, he just started his own podcast. We're gonna let him talk about that. But I just really wanted to just welcome you guys to the podcast, and I wanted to bring you on here just to talk about just your newfound burst into the fray of this Lord of the Rings fandom. Your voices have really been outspoken, like you have really been just doing your thing and you've blossomed. And I've watched it, and it is really refreshing and dope. I find myself when I'm not live, I just go and TJ's live, David's live. You guys stealing my friends. It's crazy. It's awesome. To just see you guys just really just coming to your own with this whole thing. So I wanted to invite you guys up here to speak to us and let us know what you guys are doing, what you guys are planning, all of that stuff. We're going to get into how you got into Lord of the Rings. Let's just talk. Let's have a good time. So this is, the first episode of 2025, and we got the new blood. So let's get it. Okay,
Yeah, so
Allie,
of course I got to kick off the episode with a question for 2025, which is
let's know. Let's know. Let's leave it in the past.
no, it's a new year, but not a new me. I'm sorry. What was Sheila's New Year's resolution? To spend less time on the web.
I noticed that there was a little theme here with these backgrounds. I said,
Yeah.
"Oh, these mofos being commiserated.
I don't know what you're
They
talking about.
representing their houses." So tell us the houses that you guys are representing for those
Yes.
that don't know.
Well, I have Finderato Ingodo,
Oh
Felican,
no,
King of
DJ, don't do that.
Naracostarando,
Leave that up to
the
David.
Badger, my beloved.
I know.
I started doing this because of David, actually.
Once,
Oh
once again,
boy.
the younger sibling trying to steal the older sibling spotlight, but
He's not even a sibling.
I know. I have Arcano, Finwë, Nola Finwë, Fingolfin, the High King of the Noldor, the Thrice Risen Cold Star, the Gnomish King, the Bolt from Blue, the God Wounder, the Heel Cleaver. I have his background, his
Yeah,
heraldry.
this is where me and David we come together and we form like Voltron because we both have the same favorite elf. And the most powerful elf to me, as far as like fighting and like really a great elf is Fingolfin. But the most beloved and the best elf, as far as like everybody else is concerned in Middle Earth in Beleriand, is Finrod Felagund. He is beloved by all.
It does say that he's the wisest of all the Eldar, so I'm just gonna throw that out there again, David. I will
I
forever
mean,
say that.
I'm not gonna combat that. I'm not gonna combat that. There's a reason everybody fucks with him, except for
Right.
Meme, which we'll talk about. Meme didn't really rock with Finrod. We'll,
He
we'll get
didn't.
into that. Absolutely.
But first I personally need, and the people need to know what projects you guys are working on. So TJ, what is this podcast?
It is called Tolkien on Tap. It is basically it's drunk history, but Tolkien. I have people on and we have drinks. Of course, I have people on who also don't drink. We call them Bill the Pony, basically our
Oh.
designated driver.
Oh.
Yep. Basically, I just get inebriated and I talk about all Tolkien stuff. The first 4 episodes was one single interview with David and Lee Silmarillion, and I got very inebriated. David got a little inebriated, and Lee got even less inebriated, but she was on board. And we just kind of it turned into us just trying to outdo one another. We're just messing with each other the whole time. No, it's really fun. It's just talking with people, no matter how much they know about any of Tolkien's work. Some of it is talking to people and learning things that I may not have known yet, or just finding out what certain things people like love about the Legendarium and brings them into it.
Nice. Let everybody know, TJ, where they can find you.
I can be found on so I'm on TikTok, I'm on Threads, I'm on Blue Sky, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, and it's all the same handle. It is at @the_Neej, and that's spelled Neej.
All right. You heard it here first. Now, for the one, the only. If I knew like his mother's maiden name, that's how he be talking. So that's what I would say. I'd be like, yo, David, that blah 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 blah. But you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let him introduce himself. David, what projects you got working on and where can we find you?
So I have 2 current ones going on. So one is a forthcoming paper that I wrote for the Tolkien Society's 2023 call for papers on Tolkien and religion in the 20th century. That's going to be published in like their annual proceedings. They told me sometime this year, but it might not be till next year. And that's a paper called Black Eucatastrophe and Black Power, an integrative approach to Black theology and Tolkien theological studies. Basically, I just have Tolkien speak in dialogue with the father of Black liberation theology, James H. Cone, and just kind of the overlapping types of thoughts or ways that they kind of connect with one another. And basically just kind of to bring this whole thought of broadening Tolkien scholarship to not just be so isolated as far as who it interacts with when it comes to philosophy, theology, and other literary thoughts. So I have that paper coming out. And then as far as like series that I'm partnering with Cinemillennials or Dave on TikTok, we're kind of taking our time to go through and do what we call Arda Revised. And so we're looking at the framing device of Tolkien and his mythology. As far as these are found texts that Tolkien then translated into modern English from the Red Book of Westmark. And so looking at all the different historians and different writers, as well as who their sources are, who they would likely be, and kind of trying to revise that and try and see, get behind the story of the text and how they come up with that.
Nice. Awesome. And where can we find you at?
You can find me at David the Noldo. That's DavidTheNGoldo. Tolkien studies, especially, or just Tolkien audiences. There's always been a very lack of diversity, at least for a while. And so I was trying to bring...
I noticed.
Better and I just like, yeah.
I'm like literally the only geez, now it's definitely changing a little bit. But sheesh, island out here, boy.
And that's the thing, like with KnewBetta, with your work and so much of what I've loved, and like when I first discovered like your content, going back to, I think, was it during the pandemic or a little bit beforehand, was that like you were already doing this stuff, and like just I've been here, like I've been into Tolkien. And so like in this paper it's more I start with the idea of Tolkien, because there have been papers and like books that have come out recently. It's not at all to deride any of these books, but it's dealing with how Tolkien handles race in his texts. And so in my paper I'm kind of wanting to acknowledge that why that work is necessary, but also move beyond it to be able to, hey, like let's actually have Black people actually interact with Tolkien, like actually speak to Tolkien and dialogue with him, and not just be constantly just having this analysis of just race and Tolkien's text, which again, it's important to have, but it's not the whole, it's not the end all be all of everything of Tolkien studies. And from that, I had been reading a lot of James H. Cone towards basically my last semester in my master's. And I decided to write a paper on that because I always try to make my papers in my master's about Tolkien.
As one does, yes.
Try to include it no matter what inside it. And so I'm like, as I was reading James H. Cone, especially his two books from, I think it was like the early 80s, The Spirituals and the Blues and God of the Oppressed, I noticed a lot of like shared overlap of themes with Tolkien, and just decided to have him, speaking dialogue and seeing those. And, some of the big ones obviously are Tolkien's idea of subcreation and how that functions with James H. Cone's work in his book, The Spirituals and the Blues. So The Spirituals and the Blues is James H. Cone looking at those two like music genres of Black Americans and how they've reflected or put forth a type of theology or belief system that kind of inspired hope amidst persecution or amidst the current conditions that they were in. And so Cone uses spirituals kind of as like that eucatastrophic element that Tolkien talks about on fairy stories. The blues kind of more of the reflection on the discatastrophic or kind of the more, sorrowful or like depressing elements. Cone also uses this distinction between, Saturday night and Sunday morning to kind of show that reflection too. And then the other area that I use that in, kind of going similar off of discatastrophe and eucatastrophe. I'm sorry. So Cone looks at those, as far as subcreation and how Tolkien talks about it's man's right to subcreate. And basically how he constructs his, kind of shows a type of bit of his reflection of what he believes or his worldview through his storytelling. Similarly, in the Spirituals and the Blues, we see that going on from what Cone analyzes. And Cone goes on.
You gotta save some of your lecture for the thing, man. For your paper. This is deep, thought provoking. I don't mean to cut you off, but I really
no.
That's really deep, and I wasn't even aware that you were really fully working on the connection between the two. And it actually is really inspiring and dope. So I can't wait to get a hold of your paper. Where'd you get that idea?
Mainly, obviously being immersed in Tolkien and then also just going through all of James Cone's work. I've written other papers on James Cone before too, but this one was kind of like, this is really what I want to do. Like especially in the midst of 2020, 2021, and all the protests going on, like it's important to have, and becoming more and more immersed in like not only Black liberation theology but just liberation theology as a whole. And that's the thing, James H. Cone helped to, so liberation theology is this idea of theology from basically the most marginalized within the world. Obviously it's always going to be contextual, so like how it looks in America is going to look different from how it is.
Depends on where you come from.
So like in like Latin America, you had a liberation theology by Gustavo Gutierrez, and his was about from a more Latin American Roman Catholic perspective, and focusing on the like those who are impoverished and option for the poor type of thing within liberation theology. But then in America, James H. Cone, I want to say he was the first to do it, but he went on to influence others because he also was taught at, Union Theological Seminary, I believe. And so like you got some of his students went on to develop other forms of liberation theology, like Dolores S. Williams, who wrote Sisters in the Wilderness, went on to be like a profound pioneer of what's known as womanist theology, which is theology from the perspective of Black women, not just standard like feminist theology, but actually taking into account the experiences of Black women, and that's contextualized in that, as well as other theologies of queer liberation as well. So it's the impact of all that. And even Cohen himself, he was challenged by people like Dolores S. Williams as far as like, oh yeah, your work against only, it's good, but at the same time, you need to take into account this experience of Black women within, these contexts as well.
So man, whew, that is awesome, man. I was literally, I was gonna say that, it's not wholly similar, but one of the ideas I had, because I'll be presenting some things at another event coming in September, some papers myself, and one of the ideas I had was, there's a big disconnect in the culturally uh, with certain African American or Black communities and getting into Tolkien, and especially like I would say more so in the hood because it's tough. Like for me, it was always about escapism and then the writing. You know what I'm saying? But I'm still very connected. But then I understand where my friends would be like, I'm not into that. I'm into these real things. I'm into these. I like Boys in the Hood or whatever the case, New Jersey Drive, or these movies resonate. We come from where that's okay. I can recognize that. That's these people are my heroes. Struggle is what I've survived. So all these things connect with me seeing those films and seeing either the consequences of it or those people are their heroes or seeing the uprising above it, anything like that. So when you throw in a fantasy element, they're like, I don't what horses. What are we talking about? Swords. This I don't get this. And for me, I think it's really like laughable because all those things that we admire in those communities actually resonate extremely loud in Tolkien. Is just a disconnect. You just can't match it up. The strength. The same reason why Black kids love anime is because the characters show such strength and they're fighting and these things and they automatically are like, yo, that dude is strong. Like I come from like I know like you ever been to New York? Somebody will be like, yo, I'm from Brooklyn, yo. That means I'm tough. Like that means like I'm with the smoke. I'm like that. And it's not just something where it's like, oh, empty a thing. It means something when you come from these communities that are so impoverished and like you from the slum, you from the hood, like and look at me. I'm from this the worst and look at me. I'm what I mean, I've survived, I'm moving, I'm doing these things. So they embrace the strength of it, they embrace certain things. So then when they see a character like let's say Goku, they're like, yo, Goku, he come from the bottom and he became the strongest and he like that. He loves to fight. He loves to, not that, not I'm not glorifying, but in a certain sense, they resonate with that. I tell them like somebody like Aragorn is like that. He really might be the king, but he didn't grow up as the king. You know what I'm saying? And then he'll fight 1,000 orcs. Like this is the same thing that you're idolizing or looking to or connecting to, and that you embrace in the anime community, or whether it's just regular films that you deem, hey, this is normal, real life. You know what I'm saying? You can find those things and equate them and stuff like that. So that's one of the things I want to like speak about and talk about in one of the papers I'm going to do. So get more people in this culture or from similar backgrounds into talking, because I think it's just a thought process. They automatically when they think of anything old or like they're like, oh, that's not for me. That's what medieval or stuff. It loses them when I think they're just thinking about it wrong. So TJ, I wanted to ask you. I know one of the themes Callie was talking about was defiance, and I wanted to what does that mean to you and what you have going on and what you're putting forth into the community or and your explanations and your thought processes. I've been on your lives and you're very passionate about everything. And it's so dope. You're so laid back and you're so cool. But when you really feel a way about something,
Mhm.
you stand on your business. I really respect that. I love that. You recently got banned. It was hilarious because you didn't give a fuck.
Congratulations,
15
He did
minutes.
TJ.
not care about
It
none
was
of that.
Yeah.
no, it was a
He's
half
standing
hour.
on business.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
He's
rite of
like, I don't
passage.
care. And that's a form of defiance. So as
Yeah.
far as connecting with Tolkien and everything that you love about Tolkien, what is a act of defiance or defiance within the culture or whatever you deem that you wanted to speak about defiance with the themes of Tolkien is important to you? What are important to you?
Yeah. Well, so it's not just defiance for defiance sake. It's defiance for something that matters for people. people like myself in the queer community, people who any marginalized people, any person, and you don't even have to be marginalized, because there's times where people get treated like marginalized communities, and they still deserve respect too. It's just about respecting people, and that's one of the reasons why I'm a big proponent of the Scouring of the Shire. That chapter is like the quintessential defiance. Because the Shire's been overrun. It is now run by Saruman and his ruffians. The whole culture has changed in there, and the four hobbits come back, and they're like, "That's it. All right, we're taking this over. You know what? I'm standing up." Like that. That was an act of defiance, and it's not, and all the defiance isn't done the same way. Um, there's the defiance of Merry and Pippin, who are the ones who lead the uprising. They're the ones who rouse the people into fighting back. And I mean, it helps because, like, to the other hobbits, they're gigantic at this point. But that's kind of like almost I don't, not allegory, but uh it's a physical manifestation of, something larger than life, and it can, like, that can just be put forth in like a personality, because your personality, like, you may be a super tall person or a very short person. It doesn't matter. If your personality is what is going to bring that out, and that's who Merry and Pippin are as characters. Sam is a very loving character. He goes and he checks on people and reassures people, and then he comes back and helps out with Merry and Pippin. And Frodo, at this point in the story, is a pacifist, but he's still doing an act of defiance through a different kind of love than Sam. Sam's doing it for, like, a love of, the things that he remembers and stuff like that. Frodo's doing it because, like, he just loves people in general, and he has been through the gauntlet. He carried this ring that Tolkien himself describes as like a demonic possession that broke his mind. He refuses to carry a sword anymore, and he's still going through an act of defiance. So as far, like, I see defiance as because defiance can be seen as as negative sometimes, disobeying rules. We're kind of going through that right now, with some people who, I don't really want to get all political, but, like, there's things that are happening now with, like, immigrants, for instance, in America. And there are people on one side, who are doing the Scouring of the Shire act of defiance, like, and trying to do the right things, and there's protests going on, and then there's the other side of it, where people are saying, like, well, get out, go, leave. You don't like, that's the wrong defiant. Like, just because there's a law doesn't mean it's right. There were laws in the Shire too that were wrong, and the hobbits who cared for people are the ones that roused everyone to action. And it's only through that kind of passion that Merry and Pippin have, or the different types of loves that Frodo and Sam have, that you can actually call people to action and have them do the right thing. And it's scary because, like, if Frodo says, like, Frodo says, I don't want any hobbits killed, even if they're on the wrong side. It doesn't matter. We have to love everyone no matter what. I understand there may be loss of life, but no hobbit is to be killed no matter what. He even offers that to Grima and to Saruman at the end. Saruman, who destroyed his entire home, destroyed Backshot Row, the mill is gone, everything. And that, to me, is the perfect type, and the ultimate defiance is defiance in the face of the most dangerous thing ever. Well, at that point, because Sauron's been taken care of, but and Saruman is still powerful and like I said, has taken over the Shire. So just defiance in the face of everything, no matter what, for the right reasons. And you mentioned my TikToks. Like, I'm not going to let a major corporation tell me what to do. Unless they're paying. Like, I work for a corporation. I have to follow rules at work. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, if someone's doing something wrong at work, I definitely make it known. And I'm union, so sometimes you got to go against the grain and do the right thing, no matter what.
You got to do the right thing. You got to be on the right side of history.
Yes.
Whether you're ostracized for it, or whether it's difficult, it's always important to know what's right, because we ultimately know what's right. We know. And now we can't let people with loud voices, keep us down, and or maybe in the face of overwhelming adversity, where in the Shire, they come back, and they're obviously they're they're the minority at this point. The other hobbits are going along with what's going on because they're scared, and you can't let that scare you. And they're like, nah, man, I just came back from these wars. We getting it.
Right.
I've seen you gotta fight these evils. You gotta go against it. And stand up, do what's right. And like as you said, when they spoke, the other hobbits listened, and then ultimately they ended up on the right side of history. And then we have a couple hobbits, if I'm not mistaken, like Ted Sandyman and a couple of hobbits that just weren't. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
it's unfortunate, but we see, you know what I'm saying? Like he might have looked at it like, hey, this is the correct way to go from what I'm seeing and the power that's here. And hey, let's follow along. But we ended up being on the wrong side.
Right.
It comes back to bite you in the ass at the end. So as applicable that is to today's thing, we're not going to get political, but you guys see where we're headed with that. So you already know the vibes, you know what I'm saying? So just stay proud, stay loud, and do the right thing and end up on the right side of history. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you guys are some deep thinkers, and very, very dope. Keep doing what you're doing, because as I said, now a way to segue into you guys' rise. I know it seems like weird, like rise. What are you talking about? The rise in the community is because your faces have been more pertinent, more just on screen, and your voices have been loud and noticeably and rightfully so. Like you guys, like when I come on, I'm looking for TJ, and I'm like TJ's not on. Like I'm looking for that, and I want to hear as much as it irks my soul. It is part of it is jealousy that I can't do what David does. So when he's
Yeah,
talking
we
in
feel
Quenya,
that that
yeah,
comes
when he's talking
across.
in Quenya, I'm like, man, I can't do that. I like trolling him, and I'm like, yo, man, I'm not speaking Quenya today. I don't know what you're saying. And it's true because I'm like, I don't know who you're talking about. I'm very well versed and I know everything. And then I'm like, damn, this young man right here is killing it right now. So it's love, it's jokes, it's funny, but it's respect, bro. I really love that you have the mind capacity to be able to know all the names in that language and that you have the discipline to do that. So never take it out of context when I say that to you. Like I might be like, hey, when I'm having a full conversation, I'd like to be able to know who I'm talking about. So when you throw the other name, it does throw me off. I'm like, yo, just all right.
You
Give
don't
me
want
a
to mention
break, my
the
guy.
legend.
All right,
David's
guy.
got a
We know
legend
you
on
know
his
it. Like, you know what
socials
I
where you
mean?
can see.
But much respect. Salute and shout out and much respect. You are so smart. I knew it from the very moment I met David in San Diego. So whenever I do trivia, it's typically, we got the Tims that are like that. Like Tim there, you might want to sit down. But this dude, David, came through and said, listen, respect my gangster. And he was shutting it down and he was so thought provoking with his answers. He would give an answer and then he'd also say, well, also, if you think about it this way, this might, I'm like, damn, you really, not only do you know, but you have other avenues of explaining why there might be an extended answer or this might not be correct. And you'll put it all in the answer. And I'm like, hey, bro, I just asked the name of this tree. I just asked the name of the tree, bro. All right, you know what I mean? And I'm like, yo, this dude is like that. But he's
I mean,
also
it's that elven tendency. Don't ask me. I'll
don't
give you a
ask,
yes
right?
or
Don't
no.
ask. But also what drew me to David was his kindness, his warmth. He came up and he spoke, hey man, listen, you know what I'm saying? I really respect what you got going on. And I was like, oh man. And, people come and say hey and stuff but it was just really warm and really dope. And we he kept an eye out on me and what I had going on and showed that love and respect. So that's always something that makes me keep going and doing what I'm doing. So you're one of the reasons I do that. TJ, I don't even know where TJ came from. If I'm telling the truth, I don't know where this dude came from, but immediately drawn to your, I don't even know the word. Like, I feel like you were inspired by something and you took that and you ran with it and you got the baton and you're going. And like I'm really proud of you. I'm really proud of your efforts and your growth on this app. Because like you used to just be in my lives. And it
Yeah.
always showed love. Oh, there's people in my lives that I know that I'm like, okay, I can count on these people to be there and always be ask questions, answer questions for other people, just keep
Engage with it, right?
engagement
Yeah.
and stuff like that. TJ was one of those people always. And Then he just started like, yo, hey, I wanna come out, I wanna come out a little more. And then I'm like, okay, TJ, you got live access, okay. And he's like, all right, hey, like, you know what I'm saying? He starts steering the conversation. I'm like, okay, let me sit back. Let me take a back seat real quick. Okay,
Sure.
like TJ shouted real quick. He plays instruments, something I also can't do. You know what I'm saying? He knows when to talk about other things. He got inspired. He said, "Let me make a podcast." Him and David have developed this. This is why usually we'll be like, "Oh, let's bring on a guest." I was like, TJ and David have to come together because they have very much so like me and Callie. You guys are twins. You are the Maori sisters. You are sister, sister, brother, brother,
He is
whatever,
Tamara.
whichever way you want to look at it.
That's right.
You guys come as a pair to me. Although you have your individuality as well. This internet is a funny place, but I appreciate it so much. You know what I'm saying? One of the downsides of losing TikTok was losing all of you guys. Not that we're gonna lose you. There's other platforms and we've become friends on them, but it's the way you communicate on
Yeah.
TikTok and the way that it's brought this whole thing together. You know what I'm saying? So
Well, and the
you know,
ease of using it.
Yeah.
ease and
Like you were talking
Yeah.
about lives, you can just go live, and if someone's free,
Go live.
there they are.
If
You
you're
know,
there,
if they're
yeah.
You know what I'm
not, then
saying?
you're like, hold on, I'm gonna just hang out and chat for a little bit, but I'm here supporting you. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Crazy beautiful.
Mhm.
And you know what's so crazy? I like juxtaposition. I like the opposite. So where something is beautiful, then there could be something like really visceral and ugly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Mm.
David's thoughts about, Dingle. And it's really crazy. Like we really get into full argument. So now where I was glazing David, now it's time to go to war with David. Because me and David be
Yeah.
arguing about it. Now I'm just all jokes, but we argue about Thingle's intention of with the banning of the Noldor from entering Doriath, and he is steadfast that he's like, yo, he's a complete asshole. This and that. I'm like, I really don't think, and that is very important to me that we don't just always agree arbitrarily. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, what are we doing here? Like, I
Yeah.
don't want somebody just being like, hey, KnewBetta's right. I'm not necessarily right about nothing. But first of all, I'm standing on what I'm standing on. And I love somebody that's not a punk. When you from the hood, you respect somebody who stands on their business no matter what background, nothing they from. And Dave is like, no, this is how I feel. And it like very much like Lee does the same thing. And it's frustrating. I'm like, oh, but I'm like respected so much that you might get it confused. You might be like, KnewBetta's mad. No, I'm never mad. I'm never mad about it. I'm like passionately saying my point. But the fact that you stand on your business and you freaking articulate your points so well, you might see me switch on my face like, damn, that was a good ass point. But but this, but that. I'm from New York. You ain't gonna tell me nothing. But you're telling me, and you really back up your points so well. This is some stuff that we can get into. And when we go deep into Lord of the Rings, we go deep into Lord of the Rings. And his passion on that is awesome. You heard the man mention the names of Fingolfin. You heard how he spoke about that. And love that. That is probably my favorite thing that you do.
I do use it every time that
You know what I'm
Arcana
saying?
Finwë Nola Finwë, High King of the Noldor.
I started doing it because David did it, and I was like, well, if he's gonna do it for Fingolfin, I'm gonna do it for Finrod. So
That
whatever.
shit is ill. So there, even so, like Game of Thrones, right? So it's so hilarious when there was a scene where Daenerys was introduced by, you know what I'm saying, her person, and he's like, the breaker of chains, this, da, da, da. And then the other guy goes, this is Jon Snow. Like that, that shit means something when like you listen every time intently, like, oh shit, Daenerys is the mother of dragons, you know what I'm saying? Like the unburnt, the breaker of chains, like damn, that's ill. That's how David could describe
Maybe
everybody. Like he should be like
we
Callie,
should.
the Canadian maple leaf, you know what I mean? Like that would be fire. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if you do that for everybody and every
I'll give
character that
everyone a special
it would
title.
be like,
That would
trust
be
me,
fun.
I'll be knowing some
We
things
should all give
sometimes.
David. We should all
Hey,
like get together and give David one.
you guys
Even if it's like
send me some lore like parts that you guys want me to include, or even just
like boom.
I'll
So
consult everybody and I can do stuff. I can do stuff for
make
KnewBetta.
content on it and just
That
like
actually is
Nicki
such a good
Minaj,
idea.
the boom 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 boom, the boom 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 boom, the boom 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 boom, the boom 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 boom. Like you know what I mean? It would be fire.
I
Like
see where
just
you're going with this.
you know what I mean? Like that shit
Get a
would be
whole
fire.
formula
Like
going.
you like
Formulas
you
are
making
good things for content.
you're the announcer of the, you know what I'm saying? That
The
shit would be
Herald.
fire.
David the Coinian hype man.
The herald
the,
of
the herald, the herald of Manway, David, the herald of Manway.
no, not Manway.
Not Manway, not Manway.
Okay.
The
But
herald of
David,
Gilgalad.
David, why Quenya and not Cinderin? A lot of people go in that direction.
I mean, so there's a part about it being the language of lore. I mean, that and it's also the original native tongue of my favorite characters of Arda, Finwë, Nola, Finwë, High King of the Noldor, Thrice Risen Cold Star, the God Wounder, the Hill Cleaver. And so
TJ's face right now.
I was fake looking at a watch. I was doing the Chevy Chase looking at my watch like this is gonna take a minute, guys.
So there's that aspect of it. But then there's obviously the broader secondary world history of it being a language that's banned by Elwë Sindiculo, also known as Elu Thingol.
He's a bum.
He is a bum.
He's a bum.
And so that whole concept, and it became the reason why I adopted it more was actually a kind of more recently in the scheme of how long I've been reading Tolkien, because it's only within it's 2025, within like the last 3 years that I started to adopt this. And it's because I was reading through the histories of Middle Earth and reading specifically the last 3 volumes, and especially there's a section in volume 11, The War of the Jewels, a section called The Quendi and the Eldar, where it talks about, things that went on, the different languages within Middle Earth, and especially in the Sindarin tongue, and the different words that they come up with. And, how the Sindarin, they have initially 2 different words for dwarves. One that they use to the dwarves' face, which is more of a cognate of the dwarves' names for themselves of Khazad, and that's the Hathadrim. But then they have another word that they use behind closed doors to talk about the dwarves, and that's the term that we often, in the published Silmarillion, that gets Naugrim,
the stunted people.
The stunted people. And then it also talks about, like the Sindar, at least in Doriath, or also known as Lestinore in the Quenya tongue. They also have a similar issue with the Sindar of the North by Mithram or Hithlum, Hislome. And again, they think that because it's with the dwarves, it's not just that they're stunted folk, but also they don't like their language. They think that their language is a kind of like a very debased language. The Sindar they feel the same way about, or the Sindar of the North they feel the same way about, so that they have this debased tongue, this debased language. And so like me seeing them, like, man, I don't like this guy even more. Like before, it's just like, yeah, him banning language is pretty sus. Like I get that he's doesn't like the kinslaying, like I don't think any of us do. But at the same time, like still weird. But then adding all that other stuff, I'm just like, yeah, I can't do this. I have to go with I'm gonna go with the Quenya pronunciations. And then obviously in those texts too, in the War of the Jewels and Peoples of North, you get more of the Quenya words, and just how it's more. It's also similar to like so Quenya is kind of like almost a composite of Finnish, Latin, and Greek as far as the language. So the vowel endings or the vowel suffixes, so it it can be a little bit more free flowing, I would say, than Sindarin is with it's a lot more consonantal suffixes and endings. And so I do like that part as well about it. Like, from, what is it? The difference between Maglor and Makalaure. You can hear a lot more of the kind of poetic aspect, or the kind of the song-like element to that to their names in that way.
Really, really academics 101 over here. Love the passion behind it. Love the reasoning behind it. I will argue some of that reasoning. And that's one of our things that we do, and we're going to get into that. We'll get into that one of these days. We'll invite you back, and we'll have a whole argument podcast. It'll be awesome.
I'm down for that.
I may not know Quenya, but I know the lore. I know the lore, and I know the Sindar. You know what I'm saying? I know that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, the thing that I love about your pushback is even if I don't change my mind, you give me more things to think about and more things to come back and retort with, because I got some from the last time we were talking about it. So.
Let's do it, man. Let's make it happen. You know what I'm saying? Let's make it happen. Now, as always, before we get out of here, guys, I want to make sure we ask you some questions. So I hope that
All right.
you're prepared. If
Okay.
you can marry anybody in Lord of the Rings, in the entire Legendarium, who would you marry? Okay. Who would you have protect you? And who would you fight?
All right, I got my answers.
No.
Should be interesting. Let's
Well,
Well,
I'd
it's a
marry-
record.
I'd marry Finrad Felagund. I mean, everybody loves Finrad.
Everybody
is
loves
very,
Finrod.
very-
His
Everyone
answer
loves
is
him.
Finrad
you
is
can't
gentle.
argue with this.
Finrad's a gentle soul. Finrad's a musician. I'm a musician. I would love to be
Oh,
sung to sleep. I assume he's a great cuddler. So, I mean, he is called the Badger. Why not?
Oh.
I would have
He'd
Finrad
probably let you wear the
Finway.
Nalglemir too.
Probably let me wear the Nalglemir. That's true. That's true. I'd look beautiful. I would have Finway Nola Finway defend me. I mean, come on. Like I give David crap all the time, but he's not wrong at all. He's not wrong at all.
We hardly agree
Yeah.
about Fingal. We hardly agree about Fingal.
Yeah. And who would I fight? Ael, the rudest
Yeah.
character in the
He's
entire
pretty rude.
Legendarium. Like I think Sauron is probably nicer than Ael.
Yeah, he's an asshole. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, well, the Knoll though.
So who would I marry is tough because I have to go with either Findus, which is the oldest child of Finwë and Indus,
Mhm.
and that's left out of the published Silmarillion, or their other daughter Irime, just because it's
Show
the
him some love.
Noldor. It's the Noldor royal family. Why would I not choose?
Why not?
You're trying to be brothers to Fingolfin too,
Of
aren't
course, of course. And then obviously, I mean, Arcano Finwë Nola Finwë, High King of the Noldor, the Thrice Risen Cold Star, the God Wounder, the Heel Cleaver, the Bolt of Blue. How am I not going to have him be the one who defends me? No, goes toe to toe with the devil himself, wounds him.
Got you. He's
He
that.
does.
We already know.
And then I mean, I gotta say Aeol as well. Like, as much as I dislike Eloise and Dikulo, Aeol is like worlds
Just
apart
leaves a
as
bad
far as
taste in your
Irredeemable.
mouth. I'm like,
Just-
this is like yuck, man.
like as much as I dislike Kudu Finwë and like how much of a snot he is in the books. Like I at least like he has that redeemable moment of when Aeol comes to him and it's like, if you sunshine elf, which is one of my favorite lines that he has. It's like
one so sunshine abroad.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Talking crazy to this. And he's one of the only people Aeol doesn't really try. He doesn't try
Yeah.
him at all.
Mhm.
It says in the book, and I love it, he knows his danger. He knows he's in danger. He's not playing with him. He played in Turgon's face.
Yeah.
He played in Turgon's face, but he would not play in Corfin's place. He knew, hey man, watch yourself. Corfin don't play that sucker shit. He's an asshole too. Let's be clear. Corfin is an asshole.
Well,
Yeah,
most
but
like
and honestly-
Fëanor too.
Well, and that's the thing was like the one time Kudu Finwë could have actually would have, in my opinion, had the right to be as big of an asshole as he wanted or needed to be. He didn't do it. I'm like, man, like that makes me dislike you even more now. Like you could have done more.
I like he called him out when he was like, yeah, my wife is my.
I like he called him out,
First
but
of
he could
all,
have done.
don't act like you part of my family. You're not my kin because you didn't ask permission. You just try to yap. You stole her. Yapping somebody means you robbed them.
But
And
that's
just
the
in
thing.
case,
He
my
knows.
New York is coming out.
He
You
knows.
yapped your wife, my guy. You yapped her from the family.
He knows he abducted her, but he still lets him go. Versus and I get like the whole like elves don't slay elves, but I'm like, come on, the kinslaying.
Except he
like-
already had.
Right.
He was
But-
part of that
but-
first kinslaying. I mean, of
but-
course, he's part of
but
the other
the-
kinslayings too.
But the oath wasn't activated, so I get
Right.
why, but at the same time, like, but man, you had the right. Yeah.
Man, if only Aeol had a Silmaril, then we could have had the oath activated and just gotten rid of that character.
Got him out of there.
I mean, it wasn't that much longer after.
I mean, getting thrown off the
thrown off the
character
cliff.
is kind of. I love the poetic justice in that.
Justice of it. Yeah.
I love it.
I like to think he didn't die on impact, and he had to suffer down there until.
It's like mad broken bones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Leave him.
Sarantar and the Eagles picking at his liver like Prometheus.
Yeah.
Look, see, you guys take it to another level. Another level. I love it. I love it so much.
Other minds and hands, man.
Callie, hit us with that wisdom as always.
All right, so bringing it back around to the beginning of the podcast where I talked about New Year's. These are 7 tips on how to maintain your New Year's resolutions. Tip number 1, be selective and specific about your resolutions. You might want to have like 16 things you want to change, but like choose 2. Choose 2 that really mean something to you. And step number 2, make it the plan. So that's all that's left is to do the plan. Step number 3, set specific goals. Step number 4, start very small. Step number 5, choose a new resolution or completely reframe an old one based on lessons you've learned from the past from maybe not being able to successfully make that change for yourself. Step number 6 is to get support people. And step number 7 is to give it time and be kind to yourself. It takes time and effort to make something a habit, so just keep putting in that effort and it will pay off.
Absolutely. Guys, want to thank you guys so much for participating and being guests on the podcast. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep shooting for the stars. Keep spreading your joy and your love for Tolkien. It's palpable and everybody can see it. So we appreciate you guys and welcome to the fandom. As obviously you already were a part of the fandom, but you know what I mean. Like you're more in the forefront now. Welcome to like being a part of like the Tolkienites that really like joined together and have made this community, which is mothered by KaliCosplay. You know what I'm saying? So we appreciate you guys. I would love to have you guys back on. We can get into some more academic conversations and some more debates, David. And we can do our thing, So shout out to you guys. Make sure you go follow TJ on his podcast that he has. TJ, what's the name of the podcast again?
Tolkien on Tap.
Tolkien on Tap. So if you want to get lit, make sure you go and you want to get lit and talk about Tolkien, make sure you go on that podcast and make sure you read David's academic papers. They'll be available, you said this year, David?
It should be, from what I've been told, it will be available this year in the Proceedings for Tolkien and Religion in the 20th Century was the topic for the Tolkien Society.
Boom, bada boom, boom, boom.
Okay.
Very
Yeah, follow
awesome.
David or follow Voices. We'll make sure that we make a big splash about it when it comes out, so
Oh, thank you, guys.
everybody knows.
Okay, man, awesome, man. This has been a real pleasure talking to you guys. All right, man. Let's get back to that reality. I'll see you guys on one of our lives, man. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you guys so much
Thank
for
you
having
for
us.
having us. It's been
You already
For
know the
everything
vibes,
that you
man.
guys do.
All right, guys. Lord of the Rings fans, we'll see you next episode.